Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. Since starting these lists, I've had a lot of fun uncovering and revisiting some of my favorite films, and I've been able to check a lot of boxes and just get a different variation of a lot of films I've been able to check out. But I always think back to my found footage list and thinking back on that and that idea of realism, where it's presented in such a real way, it really hits a nerve. It hits you on a different level, I think, than a lot more of the cinematic movies that I've covered. And so I had a bit of a bright idea that why not go back when we're doing these disturbing lists and uncover some disturbing documentaries, with that idea of realism. These are actually real. These things have happened. And, I figured only good stuff can happen, right? I mean, right? Kicking off the list in the number 5 spot, capturing the FRIEDMANS. The FRIEDMANS, a seemingly typical upper-middle-class Jewish family whose world is instantly transformed when the father and his youngest son are arrested and charged with shocking and horrible crimes. This one has such a different vibe than the other documentaries on this list because you already have a sense that something's off with those other ones. Capturing the Friedmans opens up with just how normal the Friedman family is, and then we meet Arnold Friedman, the patriarch of the family, who's this school teacher, and he's well known in the community, and of course beloved by his sons. While all is seemingly normal, that all changes with a particular piece of mail from the Netherlands. An explicit magazine involving boys is confiscated that is addressed to Arnold Friedman, which incites a search warrant that uncovers even more explicit material at the Friedman residence. As they uncover the material during the search, they realize there might be a bigger issue here involving the computer class Mr. Friedman teaches at his home with his son Jesse. During the investigation, they interview the boys in the computer class, and some accounts expose essay from both Arnold and Jesse Friedman, from assaults to forcing boys to play leapfrog with no clothes. The interesting element in this documentary is the amount of pushback you get from the community as well as the Friedman family themselves. There's this disdain that is evident from the Friedman boys as they speak about their mother, saying their father was unhappy with his wife. There's so much animosity within the interviews as the events go on, and you can really feel that while you're watching, it's such an odd experience because everyone just comes off as so bizarre in this situation. The documentary isn't just secluded to interview footage or court case footage. The director, Andrew Jarecki, splices in some home movie footage during the discussions, which amplifies how unsettling the situation is because of how normal the family's depicted before we uncover all these events. There's such an interesting dichotomy here in this documentary, seeing the family in those home movies and then seeing the adult boys with that animosity after these events really shows a lot of those deep-rooted psychological effects. Situations like this can really just destroy a family relationship. Capturing the Friedmans doesn't bombard you with a lot of jarring images or try to shock you in that sense that a lot of these other documentaries on this list do. This one really just shows you how this seemingly normal family completely implodes, and that's really where this documentary excels. This one is an HBO-produced documentary, so you can find this on Max with a subscription, but this one is also available on YouTube if it has your curiosity. Coming in at the number 4 spot, Paradise Lost, The Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills. A horrific triple child murder leads to an indictment and trial of 3 nonconformist boys based on questionable evidence. This one does open up with one of the more brutal images that we see in any of these documentaries that we cover. We instantly get into the actual crime scene footage of the 3 boys, and I'll warn you, they do show the bodies of the victims within the first minute of the runtime. Jumping into this one, I did not expect that, and when you do see the footage, it is such a distressing image. It almost doesn't even look real. It is almost like my brain had to adjust to what I was seeing because it feels so incomparable to anything I've ever seen on film. The documentary covers the murders of 3 second graders, Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers, who went missing on May 5th, 1993, and later their bodies discovered hogtied in a ditch at Robin Hood Hills. Called the West Memphis 3, the case names Damien Eccles, Jason Baldwin, and Jesse Miskelly Jr. as suspects in the murders, citing satanic rituals as the motive for the killing and anatomical disfigurement of the boys. The event takes place in West Memphis, Arkansas, as we get some footage of the town and meet the families of the victims. and suspects, which, as I was watching this, the world felt like this was out of a film. There are so many strong-willed personalities, I guess you'd say. It felt like I was watching a movie at certain times of this documentary. Interviews from the members of the Arkansas town cite the three suspects wore a lot of black, listened to bands like Metallica, who provide a killer soundtrack for this doc, and read books from Aleister Crowley, which led to the three boys performing satanic rituals on these victims. This documentary really is a time capsule being shot in 1996. You really do feel this societal difference in a pre-Columbine world. One of the most sinister details in this case is the disfigurement that has taken place toward one of the victims. One of the boys has some male appendages removed, and the documentary mentions the actual parts of the victim being found in a jar under one of the suspect's beds. A lot of the details in this case are really hard to digest as you watch this documentary. Seeing the parents of the grieving boys, but then also seeing the trial coverage, as well as getting more gruesome details. The documentary itself covers the separate trials of the boys, Jesse being tried separately from Damien and Jason, since he was the one that initially confessed. As we get deeper in this case, they do uncover some more gruesome details, but then they also implement this element of doubt, believing Jesse's confession could have been coerced because of his mental disability. Paradise Lost is also on HBO Max, so you can find it streaming there. It also does have 2 follow-up docs that I haven't uncovered yet, but they are on my watch list, so I'm curious to see what those will uncover. But this one is also up on YouTube. I did find this one in 2 parts. It does take a little bit of digging, but you can also find it there as well. But definitely put this one on your watch list. Grabbing the number 3 spot, Girl in the Picture. A young mother's mysterious death and her son's subsequent kidnapping blow open a decade-long mystery about the woman's true identity and the murder's federal fugitive at the center of it all. This is an absolute mind screw of a documentary. From the first couple of minutes, you're already asking yourself, where the hell is this thing going? A few guys in a truck stumble upon a dumped body of a woman who is revealed to be a stripper from Tulsa named Tanya Hughes. As her husband Clarence shows up to the hospital, doctors start noticing some old bruises and injuries on Tanya. She eventually passes away, and some of her co-workers decide to contact Tanya Hughes' mother to make sure she's aware of her passing. As they inform Tanya's mother that she has passed, they get a rebuttal, and she asks, "What do you mean? My daughter passed away 20 years ago, and she was only 18 months old." And that, ladies and gentlemen, is not even 3 minutes into this documentary. The woman known as Tanya Hughes has a son named Michael with her husband Clarence, but Michael is sent to live with some foster parents after his mother's death. Clarence is granted visitation, but he must submit a paternity test. And this is where we find out that he isn't even the biological father of Michael. Now, of course, Clarence loses visitation rights, but this is where this train wreck of a situation truly goes off the rails, as Clarence kidnaps Michael from school while holding the principal at gunpoint like he's goddamn Richard Tyson from Kindergarten Cop.
The boy is mine. He's my boy. You get your own goddamn family.
The documentary dives deeper into Tanya's backstory, where we find out her name is actually Sharon Marshall, and she's from Forest Park, Georgia, and she's a gifted student council student striving to go to Georgia Tech. I know it feels like I've covered a lot in this documentary, but this is actually the first 20 minutes of an hour 40 documentary. From then on, the story takes several different turns that just make this more and more disturbing. It's really hard to lay out all of the story here because it's something you must watch for yourself, but this real-life story feels like it was written by some sick and twisted screenwriter with how many disgusting twists and turns the story takes. If you're interested in uncovering this one for yourself, this one is available on Netflix. In doing my research, they have a lot of great true crime documentaries, some that may be appearing on some upcoming lists, so if you're intrigued by this one, absolutely dive into it.
Listen up, it is time to get serious, because whether we like it or not, this new digital world we find ourselves living in, it's full of danger. And arguably one of the biggest ones, affected 1.35 billion people alone last year. This is all to blame on those stinky, dirty data brokers. Yes, those crooks and criminals will stop at nothing to get a hold of our sweet, sweet data. But fear not, because that is where our friends over at Aura come into play. I was so excited to bring Aura on as a sponsor because this is a service that I not only believe in, but I've been a subscriber to for a little over a year now. With the help of Aura, we can continue creating and growing, all with the reassurance that they have our backs. Aura alerts me if they find my phone number, email, or even my social security number on the dark web. They're going to let me know fast if anyone tries to use this information to access, say, my credit or bank accounts. Aura also offers up to $5 million in identity theft insurance should the worst case scenario happen. You can go to my link, aura.com/splattercast, to try 14 days for free. That'll be enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal data has been exposed. You'll learn about it before one of these companies are forced to notify you. Again, huge thank you to the folks over at Aura for that discount. We hope that you will take advantage of it and keep yourself protected, keep some reassurance in your back pocket, and yes, take control of your data once and for all.
Taking the number 2 spot, Goodnight, Sugar Babe, The Killing of Vera Jo Regal. The discovery of the mutilated body of a mentally challenged young mother begins a journey into madness that is so unbelievable the mastermind behind the crime ultimately got away with murder. Holy shit, did my brain earn a gold medal with the amount of mental gymnastics it had to do to keep up with this story. Never have I ever witnessed one batshit crazy person after another talk. And I live in Ohio. But each interview makes you wonder if there's even one lucid person in this situation. The documentary chronicles events leading to the death of Vera Jo Regal, whose body was found nude, laying in the fetal position on the train tracks in the city of Findlay, Ohio. While the death of Vera Jo is the connective tissue that holds the story together, the focal point of the documentary is about the Brooks family and all the questionable instances involving Vera Jo, where seemingly the system and everyone around her failed to provide any sort of help. The ringleader of the situation is Sherry Brooks, known as Sugar Babe. And if you're completely cold on this documentary, be warned, every time she talks, you're going to get pissed off.
I will make sure that they know that Dustin Bixler,
Sherry comes off as a sociopath, a puppet master as she pulls the strings of the family to bend their knee and do whatever she wants. As this story unfolds, we learn that Vera Jo is mentally challenged and is mentally compared to an 8-year-old by her high school teacher. We uncover some of the disturbing and demeaning things Vera Jo is treated to, from sleeping with a pig to having to rub Sherry's feet daily, and the punishment she would endure as well. As we open up the story, we learn of Sherry's unhealthy obsession with baby girls, and having a daughter myself, this one just really creeped me out. We chronicle so many instances of Sherry having children, losing them to CPS, having another child, and then losing that to CPS, and this is just a continuous disgusting cycle throughout the documentary. During these events, Sherry has her son Michael get Vera Jo pregnant to scratch that itch Sherry has for baby girls, which seals the deal for Vera Jo's fate. Just a little insight on how twisted Sherry is comes from some statements some of the interviewees said she made about Vera Jo's pregnancy, telling her son that if it's a girl, that baby is mine. This documentary hits on a different level of disgust than any of the other ones that I watched. Knowing what happened to Vera Jo and other children because of Sherry, then visually seeing Sherry be interviewed in the comfort of her own rundown home, I have never had a more frustrating watch to date. Even though this is one of the shorter documentaries on the list, not making it even to the 90-minute mark, this one's going to break your heart 100 times over as you watch it. This one is streaming on Plex right now, so if you're looking for something that's just gonna want to make you rage all day, Goodnight, Sugar Babe is absolutely for you. Taking the number 1 spot of the most disturbing true crime documentaries is 77 Minutes. A doc exploration of the 1984 McDonald's massacre, where a man walked into a San Diego fast food restaurant and shot 40 men, women, and children. When we're looking at instances based on their sheer brutality, the 1984 McDonald's massacre has to be one of the worst. This was my first watch, and even knowing the subject matter, I couldn't even begin to mentally prepare myself for some of the footage and stories 77 Minutes shows. Out of all the documentaries on this list, this was the only one I had to take a break and come back to, because this one is absolutely going to ruin your day. There are just so many stories of attempted acts of heroism and bravery from regular people just trying to stop this, but all in vain, because they all end up producing a horrible outcome. The title 77 Minutes refers to the amount of time it took the police to end the mass shooting at the McDonald's. As we learn more about the event, we start to unveil several fumbles from the authorities to effectively deal with the situation. First responding officer Miguel Rosario recounts in his interview being sent to the wrong McDonald's initially, being corrected a block away from the incorrect destination. In another interview, former SWAT commander Jerry Sanders explains his beeper never went off to alert him of the shooting until 30 minutes after the initial shot, delaying his response because he was at a workshop. These are just a couple of instances that are going to frustrate you as you watch this and are hearing these stories of people being murdered or stuck inside the building as they wait for some kind of relief from the authorities. Now, earlier in this list, I mentioned Paradise Lost opens up with some crime scene footage of the 3 victims, and what you see there is pretty brutal. In this documentary, we are given some crime scene footage of the actual mass shooting, and this isn't just a few seconds. This is extensive, and it's very detailed. We see some footage of men, women, children, and even an infant, so it can be very triggering if you aren't prepared for it. I don't even know how you'd be able to prepare yourself for that. It was something that really stuck with me. It's one of the reasons I had to initially turn this off. So just prepare yourself for that. I wanted to warn you now before you dive into this one. One of the stories that lives in my brain is an account from victim Joshua Coleman. At this time, he was an 11-year-old who rode his bike to the McDonald's with his 2 friends, Omar and David. Almost immediately arriving at the McDonald's, all 3 boys are shot, and Joshua explains he laid on the pavement and watched the shooter spray bullets. Josh recounts watching Omar cry out, wanting his mother, before he convulses and eventually passes away outside the McDonald's. There are just so many brutal stories like this, one after another, that are gonna make you nauseous each time you hear a different interview. The director of the documentary, Charlie Min, decided not to mention the name of the shooter or really dive too deep into the backstory or background of the actual shooter himself, instead just focusing on the victims and their stories, which does lead to an overwhelmingly cathartic experience. This one is on Tubi right now, but if there is one documentary on this list that has a watch at your own risk warning, 77 Minutes is a full hour and a half of that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you stuck with me this long, we have certainly put you through the ringer. A lot of disturbing true crime documentaries out there. This one was a bit of a task. I kept getting more and more depressed as I kept uncovering different situations, different documentaries, but we're not stopping there. No, I doubled down on the true crime aspect here just because there were a handful of them, but I did check out a lot of documentaries that were not true crime, but certainly disturbing. So there's absolutely going to be a part 2 of this one. I do have a list already prepared, so I will be diving back into some disturbing documentaries here in the next few weeks. So get ready. I know I've got to mentally prepare myself, but if you did enjoy this one, please hit the like, hit the share, and if you aren't already subscribed here to Splattercast, please do so. We got a lot of lists coming up, some more reviews, and a big announcement coming up here probably within the next week. So stick right here with us. We've got a lot more content coming your way. But until then, I'm Luke Janesco, and stay scared.
Do the hard shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna smash your ass.